Hello, Hello humans, it's just Martine, and today Harris is going to be ranking the books that he described. I'll leave the videos that I'm talking about right here. Let's get into it. Alright, so now that you've described all 6 books for us in part 1 and now part 2 of this video, would you mind giving us an official ranking from most to least interesting?
Yeah, so like I said, this is 100% judging a book by its cover. Of course, we need to judge books by the cover to see if we're interested in the premise or anything, and what really kind of sells. Least interested, A Song for Ella Gray. Number 1, I'm not really the main audience, so that could be part of it.
You are not a child, that is true.
But I have to say, this is very vague and does feel like not like Other Girls, but in a cover. So maybe not the best cover, sorry. And the description was so vague, but you do get that it's a retelling of a different story, which is totally fine, but I have to say it didn't draw me in at all.
I have a comment for each one of these books that might be important, where I got them, because that determines how much money I did or did not spend on them, which almost directly relates to how interesting or much they're worth in my eyes. So I got this one in the Dollar Tree.
Fair.
So it was only $1.
Very fair.
And it was a good retelling, which is why I kept it.
Yeah.
But
and good find for a dollar store?
Yeah.
Next up, Terry Pratchett. I am vaguely familiar with Terry Pratchett.
I love it.
Actually, this is the first of 3 in a row, you'll see, that I'm actually familiar with. So I knew a little bit about Discworld. I didn't realize that all of his books are part of Discworld.
Not all of them are.
I didn't realize this one was. How about that?
Most of them are.
Most of them, okay.
But there are different series in Discworld. It's very confusing.
Wild.
So I didn't start at the beginning of Discworld. I literally just picked this one because it seemed interesting and read it perfectly fine.
Oh, okay. That's actually very welcoming.
Yeah.
For
and by perfectly fine, I mean it was really confusing, and that's just because it's a weird world. Like, you're going to be equally confused no matter where you start.
Yeah. All the covers in the series actually share the same.
There are way more than that.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying, like, as a collection.
Yes.
They follow this kind of
correct
aesthetic. Okay, so sci-fi fantasy. I'm a movie buff. Sci-fi and fantasy is a hard sell for me because you have to set up logic within your world, and then you can't break those rules. A lot of movies, and I don't read a lot of books, a lot of movies will skip setting up the logic of the world, and there are no rules, so then they can be broken. Or 2, they maybe set it up, but then they break it immediately, and it opens up these gaping plot holes. And some plot holes you can kind of forgive, and other times it's totally ruins anything. So that's why it's such a hard sell. So it says literally Thief of Time in there. So time travel, huge sci-fi motif. Very not interested off the bat.
I will say the good thing about Terry Pratchett books is the logic of it is so illogical that it's hard for there to be a plot hole. Because almost anything can make sense in his world.
Yes, and that takes effort on behalf of the author, and I can appreciate that. Helter Skelter book works in that way. It's all about suspension of disbelief. So what kind of drew me in a little bit more than the very vague Song for Ella Gray was A Truly Accurate Clock. That was kind of interesting. So what I think might have helped you read this as part of a Discworld book is that it wants to establish a time in the book. So it might relate to other books too. So this might not be the first entry. It isn't the first entry in Discworld, but this really could be a good introduction to it if you're not starting at number 1. Okay, so next...
Oh, wait, I have to say,
yeah.
I got this full price, but it's a paperback, so it was only $10, but I did buy it full price at Books A Million, so... I love Terry Pratchett.
Next up is the Margaret Atwood book. Margaret Atwood, we did mention some other books she did, so Assassins, Handmaid's Tale, and one that I cannot for the life of me...
It doesn't matter.
What was interesting about this was, based on the back here, this seems to be an already established world, and it's looking at it in a retrospective lens, in a way.
No, that is completely accurate.
Okay. Again, while I still don't love the fantasy sci-fi draw, I do have to say I was kind of interested in the way that this would be told. So that would be like its only selling point for me, besides name recognition, which wouldn't really go too far because I didn't actually read that book that I was supposed to read.
I bought this either used or unused. I think it was used, though, on Amazon, because I had to buy it for a class.
Next up was this guy. Really, this one and the Margaret Atwood one tied in my mind. Rick Riordan, he did the Percy Jackson thing. I
hate Percy Jackson.
I think I read one of them when I was, like, younger. I don't remember, but wow, that was a bad movie. I was kind of interested. Oh, okay, there's a book series I read when I was about in first grade, and this really captured that, and I think that's why I put it above Margaret Atwood. Magic Treehouse?
Yes, Magic Treehouse.
Was that it? That's the one? Okay, I read all of, at the time that I was in school, I had read all of them up to that point. I know that they're new ones.
I was a big Magic Treehouse buff myself.
It was good. Yeah. It was good. It was great.
I would say that this is for just a little bit older than that audience. This is, I would say, a middle grade, though, as most Rick Riordan is.
Okay.
A chunky one.
Yeah. So those books kind of, like, inspired me to read, like, a lot more. So I don't know if you knew this, but I used to read a lot.
Yeah, I did know that.
Okay. So...
Then you grew up and you forgot how to read.
It's true. So many disfluencies on my part. I'm so sorry.
So because this reminded you of the Magic Treehouse.
This reminds me of the Magic Treehouse and God of War all in one. So I thought it might be.
I'd be interested to see if you would enjoy Magnus Chase because it is Nordic. I preferred Magnus Chase out of all of his series because of the Norse mythology. Because I prefer Norse mythology over like Greek or something. But reading the Egyptian mythology was pretty. I got this full price. I had a gift card though, and again, paperback from a local independent bookstore. So thanks to the person who gave me a gift certificate to that, because that was amazing. But I did buy it full price because I'd read the first two from the library. You'll notice a trend that most of these books I actually spent real money on, not just $1, and that's probably why I ended up keeping them.
Okay, so last two. I really was intrigued.
I can't believe you described it so well.
I was really intrigued. Okay, again, who was it? What was his name?
Will Stahl.
Will Stahl killed it with the cover.
It's a cool cover.
Because this is really embodying a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I probably said
this
more.
This is the exact vibe of the book.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. This is a great, great cover. I liked it so much that I would read it even if I hated it.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even better from a twin's perspective, but like, it's a good book.
That's fair. So super, super impressed with that. This is something I could like pick out of a bookstore if I was just trying to like grab one and I didn't recognize anything. And then the story about it being about twins. I'm going to pose a question to the audience. Have you ever played the BioShock series, specifically BioShock Infinite? Because the main characters really remind me of a certain two... Okay, the game's 10 years old, so I'm just going to mention... Oh, well, I don't even remember their names, but it's the first people you see, and they like speak in rhymes, and one's a man, one's a woman, and they represent all of the time travel in the series. Spoiler for BioShock Infinite. I really like that. You have a very sci-fi fantasy taste, don't you?
More sci-fi than fantasy.
Okay, fair.
Speculative fiction is one of my top read genres.
Yes. I love speculative fiction, not necessarily in books, but competing histories, blurring the line of speculative fiction, bingo,
yes.
bango.
So speculative fiction is basically sci-fi. So yes, that's why a lot of this is sci-fi, because it's my favorite.
I love that.
So yeah, I bought this full price hardcover. Paperback wasn't available at the time, but I still really love it. It's beautiful, I think. I love this book so much.
Yeah. Definitely, like, I have a feeling that this is a little more, like, vivid storytelling. Like, you can kind of, on a cold, rainy day, and cuddle up with a book. Mm-hmm. This is the book.
Yeah.
This is the book.
I also have never met a Seanan McGuire book I haven't liked.
Excellent.
And she writes a lot about twins, so...
Kudos to that book. That's like an honorable mention in my mind. But the real number one book, I have to say, is also a great job with the cover, I have to say, is IQ. Why do I like this? It's probably because it's not a sci-fi book. Is it the only not sci-fi? No, because... It's close, though. I mean, this is the other one. This is not a sci-fi.
It is the only one that doesn't have an anywhere related genre in that stack.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish I could get more into sci-fi fantasy because there is a lot going on, and I think the more popular ones, Lord of the Rings is the exception, but out of the more popular movies, they're like really bad. Well, Harry Potter's
like what?
Like Looper. People talk about Looper all the time, and I
never
hated
heard of
it. Came out about 10 years ago with... Oh, I'm not going to go through it, but...
Okay, I'll show you some good sci-fi in the future, so...
Understood. This one, and like I did pretty well with my...
that was pretty good.
My review. I kind of got the feeling of Baby Driver in it, right?
I haven't seen that, but I
know what's happening,
I know
right?
the vibe you're talking about.
I had the feeling of Baby Driver, and I had the feeling of... there's one other thing I'm thinking of. I think it was like when I was a kid. There were a lot of movies when we were growing up about like the smart kids with the odds stacked against them. They're very optimistic. I don't know if it was this one in particular, but the one that I'm thinking of is Akilah and the Bee.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie. There were a lot of movies, lots of kids movies in the era that came out just like that. It's the only one I can think of right now. Probably because it's on.
That's a great example, though.
I scrolled by it on HBO the other day.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
It's a really good movie.
So I got WizKid and I got WizKid in general as a character and Baby Driver all in one. From the cover, by the way. And the fact that it really does flow into that really makes it interesting. So this one was my number one choice out of all of them, and these are the two that I would actually bother to read.
Which is high praise.
That's high praise for me.
That means it's a great cover.
Yeah, great cover and descriptor.
I will say, I haven't talked about this book before on my channel. I really, really recommend it if you like anything about the Sherlock Holmes archetype of a character, which I do, which is why my mom got this for me. It's so good, and not just the stale British white man, which is great, because we need less white men in literature, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So check out IQ by Joe Ide. It's a great series. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Do you agree with Harris's rankings? Do you think the books he found most interesting seem most interesting to you? If not, rearrange them. Let us know your rankings down in the comments. Harris will probably be floating around the comments responding to you too, if you're really lucky. And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!
Bye-bye.